What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another gameplay video. Today we have my friend Danny featuring the Viktor MONARCH deck that I made a profile on earlier this week. I'll put a card to that video in the upper right hand corner of this video if you guys want to go ahead and check that out. And we have myself on the right playing Kaisa. The reason we pit this specific matchup is because the Viktor deck that I made has some text specifically for Kaisa. So we're going to see in these two games if those two cards come in clutch or not, see if they're really worth their salt or the theory behind the cards. And for the matchup here with the battlefields, we have the Kaisa player dropping the Windswept Hillock, allowing the units to gank across the other battlefields. And then our Viktor player is utilizing the Altar to Unity to generate more tokens, which is going to really play into the whole strategy, especially with the tribute mechanic that the Viktor MONARCH deck is kind of built around. So we have Viktor going first here, setting up a Soaring Scout on turn 1. Now he may look to drop his Viktor leader here in order to start putting pressure on me. Like if I kill his Soaring Scout, not only will he get a rune, but he'll also get a token out of it. However, Kaisa is one of the sketchiest matchups to actually drop Viktor leader this early because, you know, Falling Star is a card, so I can pretty easily kill it. I would look to combo maybe like a Stupefy because Viktor is a 4-might unit, and I would have to use both procs of Falling Star to hit Viktor if I don't have something like a Stupefy, but that's okay. You know, you do what you got to do in these situations. He is going to drop the Viktor leader. He's also going to hide a card at the Altar to Unity, which we do go back on this play, and we kind of both agree that it was not really necessary this early in the game, and the rune management is something to really consider here, because he might have been thinking like, oh, if it's a Hidden Blade or Consult the Past, I can hit my own unit and draw 2 and get the Death Knell and get all the other stuff out of it, which is not bad at all. But yeah, the rune setback is a really big deal here. We'll see how it impacts the end of the game here. So now we have it going back to my turn, and as Kaisa, I did hit Lecturing Yordle on turn 1 going second, which can't really complain. That's probably the best start you can get going second with Kaisa. So we're dropping the Sprite Mother with our Pikachu Luigi token, and we're going to go swing into the Soaring Scout. So now if that is Hidden Blade, Danny has a decision here. Do I hit my own unit, draw 2, trigger Death Knell, get a token out of it, or do I go into the token, in which case he can just swing in with Lecturing Yordle anyway, and it doesn't really get me anywhere in a better position. So I think the best thing here definitely is to hit the Soaring Scout. Now, if you do take a look at my hand when I'm flashing it to the camera, you do see that I do have Falling Star in my hand. However, feels kind of bad to use both procs on the Viktor leader. You could argue that that's maybe the better play here, especially because I do have the Lecturing Yordle to contest the Soaring Scout anyway. But I think because of the Hidden Blade and because he's in Altar to Unity, there is a little bit more pressure on me to get him out of that battlefield one way or another. So by having 2 attackers, I do play around the Hidden Blade that way. But if you told me that using the Falling Star and just getting the Viktor out of there immediately was the better play, I would definitely not say you were crazy. And it looks like he might have missed a trigger there to play his token off of the Soaring Scout dying. He does, however, get the resource channeled from the Soaring Scout death. I do score 2 points here off of the token taking over the altar and the Lecturing Yordle taking the Windswept Hillock. Notably, though, the Sprite token is not going to be able to trigger the hold ability of Altar to Unity because temporary kills the token before holding happens. So that's a very notable, like, minor thing to keep in mind here. Danny going to drop a Sprite Mother of his own, recycle his blue, bring his token out, go into the Windswept Hillock, take care of the Lecturing Yordle. I don't have a Hextech Ray to punish it, so he gets away with that one for free, tying it up 2-2, and he will drop a token with his leader ability. Now let's see what happens here on my third turn. We're still looking at the Falling Star, which now seems a little bit more high value, although the problem is I don't have a Stupefy. If I had a Stupefy in hand there to hit the Viktor leader and the Sprite Mother perfectly, that would be incredible. I don't have it though, so I'm still holding off on the Falling Star for right this second. Keep in mind, Danny should be up 1 more token, which would showcase the value of the Viktor leader in this build, but it is what it is. He is going to get a token off of that temporary proc, or at least you should, I think. Yep, so there's his token off of the temporary proc from the Sprite Mother. Now we'll see what his best play on 6 runes is. If you guys haven't watched the deck profile yet, I won't spoil what one of the bigger plays in the deck is when you have 6 runes. And if you had 1 more token, actually, this would be a pretty huge play, not going to lie. But he is considering what his best option is here. Looks like he is considering moving one of his tokens up to the Windswept Hillock just to score a quick point. That's going to go through. No spells from me, no spells from him. And actually, okay, here he does drop the Ledros. Keep in mind, he should have one more token, so this should cost him one less power, which is relevant. You know, we missed out on that one. We only had a chance to play a few games, so this is one of the better ones that we were able to pull from. He's going to go ahead and recycle 2 here, drop the Ledros, and we'll see just how impactful it is. Now, keep in mind, oh, I just top deck into the Thousand Tail Watcher, which is one of the only outs that Kaisa has to this card, but keep in mind, like, I've been sitting on this Falling Star for a while, and if I wanted to Falling Star the Ledros, not only does that not kill the Ledros, but I would also pay 2 additional runes because of the deflect, and I would be targeting it twice. And on top of that, I have to use another spell to somehow deal damage to it, like the smoke screen sitting in my hand. So yeah, that Ledros, not very easy to kill. However, when I do drop the Thousand Tail Watcher, that gets around deflect and can punch over the Ledros. But if Danny had saved his Hidden Blade for a point in the game like this, in the hypothetical situation where I dropped the Thousand Tail Watcher, that would have been a really, really good play to do. So something we learned from immediately from, you know, going back over this game together. However, we do have the current situation of myself with the hold token from Altar to Unity in my base. We have Ravenbloom Student inactive. We do have the Falling Star. I do believe I stupefied the Viktor there, so I was able to kill it, plus the Sprite Mother with the Falling Star. And now we go back to Danny's turn with just the Ledros. But the Ledros alone is pretty scary, I tell you what. Like, I did retreat both my other units because Ledros just gets in there and pretty much kills them both for free, so didn't really want to have to deal with that. Although, I guess if I left them in Altar, he could have swung in with Ledros, and I could have used Void Seeker to trade. I would have lost one on the deflect as well as one on the power cost because my leader is tapped from the previous turn. So that could have been a play as well, but would have been quite costly on runes. I feel like I'd rather just let him take 1 point here and then try to answer back with the Thousand Tail Watcher. But now imagine here if he had the Ledros defended by the Hidden Blade that he used earlier. That would have been a really, really good setup. So dropping the Faithful Manufactor here and dropping a Watchful Sentry just to pad the Altar to Unity a little bit, and if it does die, he gets to draw off of it, so he's definitely not feeling bad about that there. Now, he doesn't use the Viktor Leader ability here. However, that doesn't automatically mean a misplay. That means he could be holding one up for like a Retreat or a Stupefy, something like that, so keep that in mind. Going back to my turn here, I mean, with my base setup, this feels like a very obvious Thousand Tail Watcher play. So I'm pretty sure that's the route I'm going to go here. We'll see if I have any other things I can kind of throw in the mix, but Thousand Tail Watcher would pretty much tap me out. I think I'm also considering like if I can hold on to the Thousand Tail Watcher and maybe get some value out of the Cleave in my hand, because I do have the Ravenbloom Student as well as some other spells to buff that up quite a bit. But I think at the end of the day, yeah, we just go Watcher here. And there's our 8 runes, plus the two blue power to play it with Accelerate. So we're swinging that in, and that is going to be a 6 might attack, or 6 might defense, rather, because his Ledros is down to 5 and Sentry's still down to 1. And he's going to Stupefy my Watcher, which is the reason why he didn't use his leader ability in his turn. So this is actually going to trade out, which is actually pretty good for him, because he deals my Watcher on his turn, which is not something you can do all the time. So pretty good for him. I am going to go up to 6 points here. Not with the most, you know, the scariest board ever, because it's just a Lecturing Yordle and a 1 might token in each of the battlefields. Pretty easy for him to deal with here. Although now Danny's on the back foot, having to figure out how to prevent me from getting to 8 points on my following turn. That's going to be his kind of task. It does seem like I have a Thousand Tail Watcher to follow up with, so we'll see if that ends up sealing the deal or not, but I would not count Danny out quite yet. So Faithful Manufactor going into the Windswept Hillock, pretty easy take for him because I'm tapped out. Although this 1 might token can't answer the Lecturing Yordle on its own, we'll see if he has some sort of battle buff or something like that, like a Sprite Mother, to drop another haste token. Swing that into the Lecturing Yordle. That's, again, going to be enough to deal with it because I don't have any spells or any energy to use any spells. We'll see if Danny ends up tapping out here. Looks like he's going to drop another 4. Play Cruel Patron. He's thinking about playing it right into a battlefield, looks like. Yep, so he'll play it right into the Altar to Unity, which puts that battlefield at 9 might, which is definitely going to be a little bit more difficult for me to deal with. Like, at this moment, I'd have to commit both the Ravenbloom Student and the Sprite Mother to try and clear that out. We'll go 3 there. We'll go Void Seeker into that one. And cleave into the Ravenbloom Student to go into the Cruel Patron. And that gets it up to 8 there. And now we'll be going into our second game. Alright, so going into game 2 here, we have Trefarian Warcamp from the Viktor side and Voidgate from the Kaisa side. We have Viktor going first again, just setting up a token on turn 1, and then Kaisa setting up a Watchful Sentry on turn 1. We have a playset of yellows in the energy for Viktor, so no Sprite Mother shenanigans this turn, which I do believe he had in his hand at this point, so pretty unfortunate for him there. Seeing what his next best play might be. Looks like he will drop a Watchful Sentry into the battlefield with the Warcamp, making that a 4 might battlefield hold. So Warcamp is kind of out of the question right now, unless I have some way to answer it right away, which does not look like I do. So we're dropping 5 here. We're going to go with Kaisa with Haste. And we'll go right into the Void Gate. We'll draw a card. So we're kind of playing chicken at this point. Both of us controlling each other on each other side of the battlefield. So we'll see if Danny ends up having an answer to that on his following turn. Before the end of the showdown, he'll drop a Stupefy just to filter out and draw a card. Perfectly fine play if you're sitting on like 2 or 3 Stupefies in hand. Just cycle through a card, see more of your deck. Going into Danny's 6 rune turn here, I mean, a couple things look decent here. Ledros looks okay here with just 1 power cost, and you don't mind killing off a Sentry because you do get a draw out of it. And me as the Kaisa player, I'm not off to the fastest start, so giving up a little bit of his board presence that's going to end up being a huge difficult body for me to deal with is not bad. Although I do also agree with this play, dropping Viktor leader while you have some energy to back it up with maybe like a retreat or something along those lines. And that makes the Ledros on the following turn even better, because you get to turn the Watchful Sentry and potentially anything else you sacrifice into more tokens. We're going to drop a Smokescreen there on the Kaisa and then swing a 1 might token into it. Going to retreat our Blastoise token. Going back to my following turn, and then I believe Danny he catches the blue rune that he didn't recycle for the Smokescreen. We caught that one. And then going back to my 6 rune turn, we're going to drop a Stupefy on the Viktor, and same thing as last time, Falling Star on both the Viktor and the token after the Viktor was brought down to 3 might with Stupefy. And then we're crashing the Sentry into the Sentry, both generating a draw, so we're both even on the board here. I'll drop a Watchful Sentry of my own, so didn't get too far ahead, although being able to snipe the Viktor leader in his base is one of the most absurdly powerful things that Kaisa can do. So one of the reasons why Viktor doesn't usually match up too well into Kaisa. We will drop the Sprite Mother here. Get the Sprite token into the Warcamp. So even though I did just have a really good exchange on my previous turn, Danny is taking the point lead, which could be relevant later on. And just like that, he's back to 3 units on board. One of the best things that Viktor's able to do. Going into my next turn here, we see that my hand is just absolutely full of spells. Really good spells, but not really great units. So we'll see if that comes to bite me later. With Watchful Sentry, Danny is going to retreat his Sprite token, basically just to generate an extra rune, because that Sprite token is going to die at the start of the next turn anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and shake down, and Danny is going to allow me to draw 2 cards, so my hand is getting bigger and bigger, but that's not necessarily the end of the world automatically, because while I might have a lot of cards in hand, I can only do so much with all those cards in my hand, right? I only have so much energy per turn. However, it does give me a ton more options. So definitely a rough thing. And that's why I'm still a huge advocate of Shakedown. Used in the right circumstances, it is extremely, extremely strong. So we'll see what Danny's follow-up here is on his 8-rune turn. We'll go Sprite Mother into Watchful Sentry. He'll take a further point lead, and I'll be generating a draw off of that, so not the worst thing. However, I will Stupefy the Sprite Mother and then Stupefy it again. So actually, the Sprite Mother and the Watchful Sentry will trade out, and this, once again, becomes a completely beneficial trade for me because I end up drawing an extra card on top of it while Danny loses his Sprite Mother. He'll throw his token into the War Camp, going up to 4 points here. And now the world is his oyster in terms of what he can start developing in his base for the following turn. We drop a Faithful Manufactor. Still got plenty of runes to use his leader ability potentially, although he may have other plays that might be a little bit better. We'll see. He will drop the Cruel Patron, though. I like that play quite a bit. And I also don't mind getting rid of the token in the War Camp because at this moment, my Lecturing Yordle just answers it for free. So not a bad thing at all to just deal with that and get that out of there. And then use the leader ability to make another token in his base. And then pass it back over to me with the 4-point to 2-point lead. I'm going into 9 runes here. Still a little bit awkward on the unit side. I think I'm holding a full playset of Darius Trifarians, so that's a little weird, but we'll see what we can make work with it. I think at this point I'm sitting at like almost 10 cards in hand, so quite a large library in my hand. We will drop a Sprite Mother with the token, go into the War Camp, score the point there. And we'll pass it back to Danny with 5 open. So yeah, Darius, a little bit awkward here because I've already taken both locations. And there you can see, yeah, the 3 Darius in my hand, which is kind of insane. My spells at the moment are all battlefield affecting spells besides the Singularity. And he's got one good target for me to hit with Singularity, but I kind of don't want to blow it. I don't want to get greedy basically and use a Singularity on only one good target, although maybe that is the better play. Because Cruel Patron is going to definitely take one of these battlefields, and then he probably has a good chance of taking the other battlefield as well, although I am sitting on spells like Shakedown and Void Seeker, which I can definitely get my full 5 mana worth out of. We will once again see the Sprite Mother. Having Sprite Mother drop so many times in a set of games is kind of funny. So he'll drop that token into the Lecturing Yordle Void Gate battlefield. Question is, do I want to clear it with something like Void Seeker, or do I want to let him just take it and then maybe try to fully defend the token over on the Trifarian War Camp? War Camp poses a problem though because it makes all of Danny's units bigger, so it makes them harder to kill with my spells. So I think my logic here is I'll kill them at the Void Gate where they're easier to kill. And if he wants to take the War Camp, sure. I'll try to drop Thousand Tail Watcher the following turn to answer all that. But I'll defend the Yordle where it's a little bit easier to do so. So he's going to go for a 2-might trade, potentially. He'll Stupefy the Yordle, so I'm not really going to be able to save it there. I could have casted a Shakedown, but feels a little bit less good. Although, actually thinking about it, yeah, okay, I had the smoke screen here to do it anyway. If I didn't have the smoke screen here, I think a good play would have been to shake down the Cruel Patron in the showdown between the Faithful Manufactor and the Lecturing Yordle, because it wouldn't have had the +1 might from the War Camp yet, so he would have had to make a decision on it there as to whether or not he would want me to draw 2 or not. And he's going to drop the Hidden Blade in response to my smoke screen so that his Cruel Patron wins that battle guaranteed. So now we're going to have to see if I can prevent him from holding both battlefields. Otherwise, I will lose the game here. I'm sure that the Thousand Tail Watcher is going to be quite helpful with that, although it might cause me to tap out on my next turn, which would leave me pretty susceptible to the Grand Stratagem Rush. And we can see now, like, the purpose of the deck where Danny is able to establish a ton of tokens. We even spoke about here how in this game, Ledros would have been a pretty good mid-game threat. Just so happened that he didn't draw it this game until the very end, I believe. So we talked about that, kind of reflected over the use of the card, because, you know, I'm not saying the card is 100% the gospel against Kaisa. I'm thinking it's a card that might have some application because of its stat line, but we tried to review each game with the tech in mind. That's kind of how competitive testing works in a lot of ways. Like, would Ledros have been good here if he drew it? Was Ledros good in the game he actually dropped it? And so far, the answers to those questions seem like yes. That doesn't mean, again, that there weren't better cards or weren't other cards that could have done similar things, but those cards that we tried seem to be good in those specific scenarios, or would be good in a scenario like this game presented. But anyways, going into his next turn, yeah, this is a really rough spot for me as Kaisa because I've only got one energy open with just a ton of spells just eating a hole in my hand. And if he's got the grand stratagem, I mean, he's got game on lock. Although it looks like from the way he's playing, you might not have it, because if you had it, why wouldn't you just drop it? He's going to go into the Sprite Mother there and trade Sprite Mothers and leave his token to get a 7th point, and he got the Hidden Blade anyway, so yeah, it didn't matter either way. He could have won with Grand Stratagem, could have won with Hidden Blade, and yeah, that seems like a game we discussed once again that Ledros would have been pretty good in, but yeah, he's going to go and take this one. So one for Viktor, one for Kaisa, and there's a Ledros at the end of the game. We're talking about it right there, how impactful it maybe could have been. Seemed like it would have been good in that game. Also would have been better in the first game if he hadn't dropped the Hidden Blade too early, and also didn't miss one of his token triggers. So seems like a decent outing for Ledros. It didn't, you know, win the game on its back in either of these games. Again, we only got to play a few games, but interesting tech to try out. I quite liked it. I thought it seemed pretty good. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I'll try to get more games too where maybe Ledros gets to shine. You know, we both work full time, have busy lives. We try to play as much as we can for recording. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one.